we share a story like this is because I know so many actors can kind of feel so alone in the process of reaching out to representation. And naturally, because it's super vulnerable and our friends all get weird about giving us referrals sometimes, if they're even willing to do it, or they kind of do it or don't do it, or you have no idea if they do it. And I find that target lists can be a place to hide, and it just can become very like people tell you the only way to do it. And one of the things that I like about hearing about journeys in this way is that I think that the more we flood ourselves with stories of how people made it happen for them, the more willing we are to lean into like the universal intelligence that it could happen in many different ways. And there's just a certain way we need to show up to attract it. So I'm just going to share your results a little bit here, which is you had 6 meetings and 6 offers for representation. So you're 6 for 6. I don't know anything about March Madness, but I feel like that's probably a good record. Right. And so before we get into that, like how that all happened, can you share with us, what were things like, oh, by the way, if you hear screaming pterodactyls in the background right now, can you hear? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, what is that?
Those are screaming pterodactyls. Where I live in Pasadena, there are wild peacocks. They scream at each other all morning, starting
I remember.
way before 7 a.m., by the way. It's the one sound I can't block out of this room. Okay, so I got distracted by peacocks. So I want to hear a little bit about before you started the process, because you did this through Agent Goals, but before you started Agent Goals, tell us a little bit about the lay of the land of what your career was like, what it was like to look for reps. Just kind of paint that picture for us if you'd be willing.
Sure. I mean, I got into acting later in life. So and then even when I decided, okay, this is what I really want to do, I still sat on it, meaning like I floundered. I didn't really go for it with as much as I, wanted to because of fear and all the, the inner voices, all of that. Sure. Right. And then when I decided, okay, I want to get out there, I signed up. I would go to the workshops, the meet the
like showcases.
Yeah. Okay. And I went to a few, and I didn't feel like that was the best way for me. It's like you get this, I don't know, like one shot to do a scene or a monologue, and I don't know, like I only met with maybe several, not that many. I know people who have done quite a few. But I just right away, I was like, I'm just not feeling, or I'm not bringing myself in the way that I want to. And then my beautiful, dear friend, sister, Hannah, whom
yes, also a graduate. Yes.
We did that. Yes. And we decided to do this together. And at first I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I mean, what is this program? Who is Brian? No. And, but of course, immediately from day one, I was hooked. But I will admit,
please. I want the inside scoop.
I was kicking and screaming inside when we had to start the work.
Yeah,
that work. I just
tell everyone.
I didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
I was whining.
And tell us so that they have a little bit of a glimpse into what to give them like a context. What do you mean the work? Tell me about
writing
the work.
About the acting life story. Oh gosh, and I think that was the probably one and only post I had on Facebook in our group, where I just one day I was just like I was just sitting, like trying to write, having things. I thought it would be easy, like it would all come pouring out. And I just was sitting there stuck and then tears. I didn't really cry that much, but just lots of tears pouring out. And you had me thinking about, stuff that I either hadn't thought about in a long time, or just didn't want to, or just like the part about my son. So, and then I realized, oh my God, a lot of this is, I do want to make him proud. And I mean, it is for me, of course, ultimately, but, I realized a lot of it was like, what he thinks and my relationship with him and what I did during the time when I was much younger and taking my classes and everything. And so, I started just typing away.
So when the tear, and I don't want to make you go there too far, but
Sure.
when the tears are coming up, what do you think was being cleansed or what was being let go of, do you think, in those moments?
I wasn't allowing myself, and I know we keep talking about this, vulnerable, or another word, like available, or just, because I'm one, and I'll fully admit this, I like to be in control or have everything under control. And, I don't want anyone to see what's really going on in terms of like, I'm good, like, I'm
Sure.
supposed to be an actor. Like, you're supposed to believe that I'm good. I have everything
Yeah.
under control. And so just going back there, just all the memories of how I wanted to act all my life, and I just wouldn't even I shut down those voices right away. All stems from long ago. And so that's, you had us going back, from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so again, I was like, at the beginning, I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Well, I want to clock in. By the way, we're talking about getting managers and agents right now, which I think is the wildest part. Like, this is not, no, you're just supposed to tell me, like, how do I write an email, Brian? Like, what's going on? Like, this is not how, right? And so tell me how do you think that work paid off for you? How did that make a difference?
Oh, because ultimately my killer email had all of that, just in as however many words.
Yeah.
But I was able to capture the most important parts. And I kept having to edit away, edit. But especially with your guidance, I was like, oh God, like, how am I going to put this out there, and what's going to jump out at them? And had I not done that work, I probably would have done something like, oh, I was in this, like, I did, you know what I mean? Or I trained at, so did however many people, you know what I mean? Like,
yes. It loses your individuality is what actually, you write your own self out of your emails, kind of what I'm hearing you say. And how do you think this changed the way that you showed up in those 6 meetings where you got 6 offers for representation? How do you think you showed up differently?
Oh, right away with each one of them. And I was very lucky because each one of those meetings was great.
Really?
And they made me feel very comfortable. And most of them were moms, and we just right away bonded or connected over that. I don't want to make this as, it was just about the mom. There was more to it than that, of course, that they saw me, I like to say, but you couldn't help but, I mean, that's what some of them had told me in their responses to me. And so we just immediately like understood, and they loved reading about it, and then seeing that in you, because like we'd be in the middle, we're having these Zoom meetings, right, and we'd have to watch out, or our dog would be in the way, or like the kids here and there, they would ask me about my kid, and I would ask them about theirs. So it was instantly like just so great that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so different from the way you just described yourself earlier, which is like, I would have been like, everyone, don't move, don't make a sound during my meeting. I have a meeting today. They cannot know that there's anyone in this house but me. I'm perfect and nothing. Yes. Like, so different. Would you have ever imagined before to have included that or shared that in your emails in the past, or the way to reach out in the past?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I really love that. Don't think. Yeah. It's such a huge part of who you are, and to be so written out of it. So to walk us through a little bit about, tell us the journey of landing these meetings and where you ended up in a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure. I it took me a while. I was still like, oh, I don't want to, do it just yet. Everything had to be right.
You're like, I'm fighting with my vulnerability here. I'm sure you were doing a little vulnerability shuffle all the way there.
Making sure this and that. And then I got to push, Hannah was part of that. She's like making sure, like, you got to do it.
Yes, right. So what I love about what you're saying though is, I always find that like there's like the vulnerability and the vulnerability hangover. Like, okay, I'll write the story, Brian, but screw you. I'm not going to put these emails into the world. And then like, okay, now I'm feeling a little more like, so like we kind of push pull there. And what I love about you said is, Hannah, my friend, that part of having community actually helped me. And I think that one of the things that we started by talking about how lonely this process is, or at least I brought that up, right? And so it's so wild. No one ever says, I can't wait to be inside of that program because of the community. But what happens so much inside of it is the people beside you make you like, no, you can't settle. Come back out of that cave you're trying to go back into. They just pull you forward.
I have to say, and I was telling you earlier how I'm not a frequent user of Facebook, or, and this drew me back in, but I would always check in the group, and what a community, like what a loving, warm, inviting, all the great
Yes.
words. Such support, I would read from time to time, and it's, genuine,
Yeah, and you know what's
sincere.
interesting is, as someone who's like worried about creating a Facebook group, right? Like when you create a program, what you don't want is like, well, I don't want the blind leading the blind, and so they're not helping each other. So you have a little bit of like, how do I create a space where actually they are supportive and able to help each other? And so I think that um, when I was first started, I was like, well, let's try some of having some of these kind of rules for how people relate to this group. And I think that is such a valuable way for people to then say, oh, I know how to show up here, as opposed to like, I feel like Facebook groups can become blood-sucking vampire. Like, do you know the casting director email for this? Or do you have that? Like, it becomes like a Yelp, a horrible Yelp version of like Facebook. Like, just
Absolutely,
tell me how to
yes.
find something, which is
Right.
so not what that group became. So I appreciate the way you articulated that. So, okay, I'm going to shut up, I promise. So you sent your emails out into the world, you got meetings. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so as soon as I sent it, I was like, like what's
Yes.
gonna happen? I used Yam, and I would see the click rate go up. And
So just I want to give everybody a little context who's listening is, in the program, we show you how to watch to see if people are clicking or if they're opening your email in a way that doesn't feel Big Brother stalkery, but just so that you can see, like, is my email actually working? Right. And so you could actually see that. And so did you start getting responses on the same day, or how did it go?
yes. So and then yes, I'm jumping all over, but yes, I did. And of course, I just thought if I even just get one response, because you just never know. You think like they get tons of emails. We've been hearing all about it. It's just like, but like, if just even one, even if it's a no or something, like please just someone respond.
Yes, I like even when you do all this work, like, and also there's just a little prayer of please someone just write me back to say yes, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just never know. And not an auto reply that, but I can't remember the order, but some were like, you're not right now, thanks, but this is not the right time.
Yeah, sure.
And then some were like, the first one who asked for a meeting, I like jumping up and down, and she's already, I was like, I love her, I'm gonna find her.
She's like, can I have a meeting? You're like, I'm obsessed with you, let's get married, right?
Yes, I'm going with you.
Right. No, I hope that's not what you did, is it? You actually took a meeting.
No. But I was even getting responses like, weeks later.
That is the part that is so wild. Can I just speak to that for 1 second? Is a lot of times, there's the like, I want to get the response right away so I get validation that like this meant something. Like, can I get my grade on this at least? Like, we have that little like good student moment, and also the vulnerability. But I have heard a lot of people who will get responses like weeks later of like, hey, I'm finally getting around to this. Could we still have a meeting? Usually by then, people have already made you've made your decisions to turn people down at that point, is what I'm finding. And you also had, I saw that in your data, because this is a very data-driven way of doing this. Right. You had some people who said, tell me more. Can you tell us a little about what they asked for?
More tapes.
More tape, right? Tapes. Which you were prepared for, because I prepared you, right?
Yes. Good. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing, actually. Just more tapes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Did any of those turn into meetings after you sent tape?
Yes.
Got it. Great. That's a really good sign. How did that feel to you when that would happen?
Oh, because they responded and they said, I loved watching those tapes. And then, could you meet, on so-and-so or whatever date? And I was like, oh, absolutely.
But tell us about the process and the timing of when you were taking your meetings, because I think that's also like, were there a bunch back to back? Were they spread out? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, they were all within a week, 2-week period.
Okay.
So I only did one round.
Great.
And that was enough for me, because I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but for me, I was like, oh my God, that's already a lot. Like, I know I
Yes.
should have kept going, or
No, wait,
you
Eumi, I
know,
just want to pause. I want to make sure people are tracking
okay,
this because they might not
okay,
understand. So this is a little bit of inside baseball, you guys. The inside of Agent Goals, I teach you how to do an email and then a follow-up and then a follow-up. And a lot of people find success with their first reach out. And it kind of, I actually find that to be seasonal. I'll tell you, Eumi. Some people, it'll be like, there's like a little bit of crickets
sure,
on the first email, and then suddenly the second email gets a lot. And I think it has to do with like what's going on business-wise. But that you didn't have to send your second or third is great. Good job. There's no, I don't give you a grade inside of Agent Goals. So if you found your person in the first round, like, thank goodness, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was almost like, I can't even send. I don't want to send any more because I already love the people I'm going to have meetings with.
Right.
But of course, I have to see what the meetings are like. I
Yes.
can't assume that
Right.
it'll be all,
Right.
happy.
So tell us a little bit about the meetings. Tell us a little about like that process.
Yeah, with the first one, I remember so clearly. I just already felt a great, like, just how do I explain it? Just comfortable and just at ease. And I was like, oh, I could totally see myself with working with you, like a partnership.
Right.
And then I was already ready to go with her, but I was like, no, you still have to meet with all the others. Don't do that yet. And then that's why this was so tough for me, because the subsequent ones were also really great.
Yes.
Each one of them, I saw, each one of them had something I was just like, I love you. Like, I can really see us working together. And ultimately, though, I went with someone I just felt okay. I just think about it for a while, and I thought we would be the best fit. I don't know how else to say it, just because everyone else was so great.
Yes, sure.
I feel so blessed.
Right. So let me just I want to just narrate this a little bit for listeners here, because I think this is so important. Is a lot of people will say that the hardest part was the moment when I had to make the decision, because I met with great people. And one of the things that I believe about that is because you were so willing to be seen in your email in the way that we made sure that was authentically you and different from any other actor, is why you attracted those people who were all great matches. And so it was this naturally, you're going to have a harder time making a decision. What did you rely on in terms of either inside of the program or outside of the program to help you make that decision, other than the feeling? Was there something in the program that helped you, or was there something that, like, tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. The questions that you had in one of the later segments, I'm blanking out right now, but you had follow-up questions like to help guide you.
Yeah. Oh yes, the GPS, the great partnership.
Yes,
oh, yes.
And I definitely referenced those to help me, and it was just a list of things like, oh, how did they do in this department, or did I feel like they would do this for me regarding this, that kind of. So it kind of it guided me.
Great.
Definitely helpful.
Tell me about in the meetings. You said you always felt like, I just felt like this great connection. And tell me about, how did you show up to those meetings, or what did you notice about yourself, and were you surprised about any of the way that you showed up?
Well, again, your questions helped.
Good. It's working. Good.
And then, just even talking about like what shows, and then it got into like more than just the business, just like personal stuff, like missing holiday parties and stuff like that. And we would just talk about it. It just started becoming like, that's when I knew it was like, it wasn't just about the business and just, we made it a point, or I did, like that connection is so important. Like, that and good people. Human decency, right?
Yes. Well, but I love what you're saying, Eumi, because some actors might not be concerned about having a personal relationship with their reps, right? But it was so clear to you that you did, and that's who you attracted, and that you were able to suss that out and actually, like, is this a person that I connect with? Because one of the things that we talk about inside of the program, and also even the way you're kind of talking around this a bit, is your resume could look exactly the same as somebody else's with the exact same experience. And you could even look the same as somebody else. It'd be the exact same. But then at some point, someone just needs to have a good feeling about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the part that becomes why you can say yes, or why they can say yes to you. And that is the part that I believe when you're prepared, then the real you shows up. And that way you're not like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I love that. So you made your decision, and did you settle on a manager and an agent? Did you just get a manager? Tell us where that landed. So
just a manager.
Right,
just a manager. Yeah, I wanted to start with that because I'm early. It's early on in my career, so I figured let's go with the manager first.
And can you mind sharing with us how it's going so far? What's going on?
Well, I have an audition to tape today.
Oh my God, good job. Well, you look great. So good. Yay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Which I don't think I would have gotten on my own. So thank you, manager.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
And yeah. So it's it's a weird time, of course. And so there are a couple of weeks when I was like, oh, it's kind of quiet, but that's the nature of the business. I know.
Yeah.
Patience. I keep telling myself patience. So
sure. Well, if we have a little bit of time here, I just want to see, is there anything that you might need right now coaching on inside of your career that I might be able to help you with right now? Do you think?
Oh yeah.
You weren't ready for that. Sorry, I just threw that at you.
I mean, other than working on my craft still, but the business side, of course. And I try to check in every time for actors AOS.
Yeah.
And we watch the replays because I'm not able to join live, but I'm telling myself, be kind to yourself and don't feel like you should that, like you're behind or whatever. But I think, I do need guidance on like how else I can, now that I have a manager, I don't want to feel like, oh, I can rest.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I know I'm still.
Two things though. First of all, you can rest a little. Let's also say, like, it's great. Yeah. It is a really good feeling to have representation.
Yes.
Right. So I want to make sure that part you at least take in, because I just want to celebrate how well you went through this process. You said kicking and screaming at the beginning and came all this way, attracted 6 fabulous possible partnerships and said yes to one. So that's beautiful. So I want you to rest there a little bit. And then from that place of like, great, there's a team here. I would say right now, if you were going to be like a great client to your manager, like I want to be a really great client because that's going to be what helps me move the needle on what's next for me. And then I want to circle back to one more question I have for you, but I would focus in on where am I setting them up to have easy conversations when they pitch me.
Right.
Does that make sense? So, and you might already be doing this, Eumi, so I don't want to be like talking you down, or like you already know that, but I would say, so like, is there a room for me to say, okay, in the next quarter, April, May, June, which is 3 months, next quarter of the year, I'm going to get 3 casting directors to know me. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get 3 to know me. And I would pick those 3. Here's the criteria I would give you to pick those 3 to help you. I would make sure they offer workshops, because otherwise it's going to feel lame, because you're never going to actually find a way to get access to them. Like I always find that actors just bang their head up against the wall. Like, I'm targeting a casting director who doesn't teach workshops. It's like, is it ever going to come to anything? Right. So I would pick 3 to have, right. I would make sure that they are casting during this quarter of the year. So those 2 criteria. Third, the castings that they're doing are for shows that are right for you.
Right.
Okay. And you'll be able to watch this recording on Facebook Live. So don't you worry.
Yes.
I take notes,
I'm like,
right? And then I would look to see, is there a way to access them? So what I mean by that is there an email address in the world? Are they on Facebook? Is there a way? Because what we want is over the course of the quarter, you don't just do the workshop and be like, bye, see ya, great. But I can follow up with them afterwards. I can reach out to them beforehand. I can tell my manager, hey, this is who I'm meeting. And the way that I would loop your manager into this conversation, is this helpful so far?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. The way that I would loop your manager into this conversation is say, hey, I'm thinking about targeting a couple casting directors between now and June. And here's a list of 4 or 5 that I know are doing some workshops. I can't go to all of them, but which 2 of these are most exciting to you? Because you're not going to try to target 5 people. You'll go crazy unless you've got all the time in the world, which I don't think you do with a sauna running around, right? So,
No.
right. So I would say which one of these work settings are the most exciting to you? But before you even send that or connect it to your manager, I would make sure like, when are the dates? Can I afford it? Does it work for me? So that you're actually sharing viable options with your manager. Because what you don't want to do is your manager say, well, yeah, I like Kelly Rowlands, who's from Destiny's Child, but okay, I like Kelly Rowland's casting director. And you're like, oh, dang it, she starts next week. I don't even think there's a spot in it. Like, don't set yourself up for failure here. And this is one of the spaces I would just be like looking really further ahead at workshops that are a little further down the line. Is that helpful?
Oh, so helpful. Thank you.
And
Thank
then,
you.
wait, I'm going to give you the secret bonus helpful thing.
Okay.
After the workshop, when you're going to thank them, if it's a multi-week workshop, which is my preference, but it doesn't have to be, but if it is, after the last one, when you send them a thank you message, remember that thank you message isn't like, thanks for the workshop. That's great, cool. Every actor in the world does that. You're not saying that. I mean, you will say that, but you're also going to make sure what you're trying to do is remind Kelly Rowlands of the work you did in the workshop so that she has branded your essence in your fabulous acting. That's what you want her to remember. So in that thank you, of course, you're going to thank her for the opportunity. And I always say, when you thank that, you say the what, the where, and the when. So that you really remind, you got to get their mind back. And we did that workshop at one-on-one on Thursdays. Like, you really want to say those specifics to really get that, put them back in that place so that they remember you. And then say something like, pick one of the scenes you did, say something specific about that scene. And if they gave you an adjustment about it, specifically how that helped open something up for you. And that might seem a little bit obvious, but what you're wanting to do is, no one cares. This is going to be painful. No one cares what you love. I loved doing that scene for you. No one cares about what you love. What they care about is what you do well. So working on this scene was exceptional, was really fun for me because my sweet spot is characters who XYZ ABC 1 2 3. So you're putting your passion into what you do well in the kind of phrasing like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. So you have to be accountable. There you go. There's your test. So there you go. Okay. So coming back to your agent goals process here, I want to check in with you. What part of the process do you think, if you had to pick one, helped you the very most? Which one was it and why?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I'm not going to help you.
What part of, because there were so many for me. I guess what I was saying before, where the beginning and going back there, my the life story and the unique story promise, all of that, putting it all together and then realizing who I am, or that sounds so.
You're doing great. You're really doing great.
Thank you. But being able to capture that and communicate that in my email, and then also in my meetings in person with them, that really prepared me, because I had all these things to draw from and talk about and feel more like myself. Also, you are just so instrumental in putting me at ease. Like, Hannah and I would always say, oh my God, that Brian afterwards, like, he's amazing. Like, just because you're just so, like, you knew when you had to, like, you were like, okay, time wise, we got to move on. But like, you gave people like that space and again, warm, inviting, comfortable. Yeah. I carried that with me. Great. I felt like, that says a lot as a person, because in the end, it's not life or death I was treating it as such, I gotta get something out, but no, it was just like, as a person, I felt more whole in a way, because because it took me so long to say I'm an actor. I still was feeling that imposter syndrome and all of that, but now I own it and I love it, and you really were so helpful with that. I'm not just saying that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that. To what you just said for me, and I'll just say this now, I'm going to take up some space for a minute, is my real purpose is that you feel more safe and confident inside of yourself. And the bonus of this is you get a manager or agent. And what you described means that I kind of I'm giving myself a little pat on the back saying I did what I wanted to do with when in your experience. Thank you. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, if there are probably actors watching right now who were where you were at the beginning of this process, before you even enrolled, whatever. What would you say to them to just know about reaching out to reps, or what would you just want them to hear right now?
Yeah, for the process works, or this works. It worked for me. I mean, I was a little like, oh, what's going to happen with this? And, are they really going to take a look at this email and all that? But that's how I ended up getting one. It was through this, there's no better way to say it. It was just like, and I'm so glad that I did trust in it, that I because so many times I did want to, I sent you my email to look over a while ago, a while before sending it out. So I sat on it even after.
Yeah, even after you had, whoa, most people don't do that. I got you. Okay.
I know, because I kept thinking, oh, it's not the right time, or, or it's still not ready and all of that. And, but then I was like, you know what? You just stop doing this to yourself. Just go for it and just trust in it.
Yeah.
And then hearing everyone else about your stories, and I was just like, yes, it's the community and the support, and yeah, just you have to be able to trust it.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Eumi, because what you're really saying is like faith is a journey that you are on minute to minute, day by day. And so trusting in that, like it is not faith. The answer to faith is not, I am faithful. I'm faithful. I trust everything. It is a journey that you go on minute to minute, and that there are times when we may walk back and feel really confident in our faith in the process or whatever. And, there's this analogy that I use is you don't have to believe this is going to make a chocolate cake, but if you follow the steps, you'll have a chocolate cake at the end. And so there's a little bit of like that kind of like, okay, fine. Right now, I believe I'm making chocolate cake. This is not going to work, but I'll put the milk in anyway. Like there's like the acting as if, and then you kind of get that reassurance. So I just appreciate you sharing that piece of the vulnerability with us today, because that is such a personal journey toward believing what is destined for you and believing what the universe wants for you, universal intelligence wants for you, God, whatever word you believe. But I just really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It was such a joy. If people want to find you, I know you said social media, you're not like the social media queen, me either, but if people want to find you, can they find you anywhere?
Sure. I have a website, and my email too is very simple. It's just, yeah.
Great. They'll find that then. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time. And hey, break a leg on your audition today.
Oh, thank you. What timing?
Right. Have the best time. We're just sending you all the good juju right now. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Eumi.
Okay.
All right. I'll be in touch. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thanks
bye.
everyone for joining. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.